The air inside the Montgomery County Courthouse in Montgomery, Alabama, hung heavy. Not because of the sticky southern humidity pressing against the old stone walls outside, but because of something thicker, harder to escape. An unspoken weight had settled in this building over the years, as if the walls themselves had absorbed decades of injustice and whispered warnings. Anyone who stepped through the grand oak doors quickly learned how things worked in Judge Evelyn Harrow's courtroom. For 24 years, Judge Harrow had presided over courtroom 4B with an iron fist. A woman rarely seen without her reading glasses perched at the end of her nose, her sharp gaze slicing through attorneys like they were little more than annoyances buzzing in her ear. She spoke softly, never once raising her voice, but the cold precision in her tone crushed anyone foolish enough to push back. She didn't need to yell. Power clung to her like a tailored robe, stitched tight by decades of unchecked authority. In all that time, few had dared challenge her, and none had succeeded. Until now, the beginning of the end. On a gray Thursday morning in March, Quentin Ward stepped into courtroom 4B. His polished Oxfords tapped a steady rhythm on the marble floor, each step measured, controlled. He had stood here before, dozens of times, but today was different. He wasn't here just to defend another wrongfully accused black man. He wasn't here to play by Harrow's rules. Not today. Today, he was here to end her. Quentin was 47, but the weight of his years in courtrooms like this one made him feel older. He had built his reputation on taking cases others wouldn't touch, fighting battles no one else had the stomach for. His name was known far beyond Alabama. Whispers of the man who dismantled impossible prosecutions had traveled across state lines. It had also made him enemies, and Judge Evelyn Harrow was one of them. As Quentin made his way toward the defense table, he caught her gaze. Harrow's eyes narrowed, but her mouth didn't move. She already hated him, not for anything he had said, not even for the case itself. She hated him for existing, for standing there, calm, unbroken, unmoved by the weight she had so carefully designed to crush men like him. This wasn't about his client, Anthony Bell, a young man falsely accused of armed robbery. This was about power, about control, about a system built to protect itself and the people who had learned to twist it in their favor. And Quentin Ward had come to break it. The show begins. Mr. Ward, Judge Harrow said without looking up from the paperwork on her bench. You're already testing my patience. The trial hadn't even begun. Quentin adjusted the knot of his tie, his expression unreadable. I'll do my best not to waste your time, Your Honor. Her lips quirked in something that might have been a smile, but there was no humor in it. See that you don't. My docket is full, and I have little tolerance for theatrics. To her right, the prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Nathaniel Briggs, smirked as he shuffled his papers. Briggs was young, ambitious, and more than willing to align himself with Harrow's brand of justice. He was here to win, not to uphold the law. The state is ready, Your Honor, Briggs said, casting a glance Quentin's way, as if daring him to say otherwise. Quentin gave a small nod. We're ready too. Anthony Bell sat beside him, his hands folded tightly in his lap, his shoulders hunched low. He was 26, but looked older, as though the weeks in lockup had stolen years from him. He kept his head down, his breathing shallow. Quentin leaned toward him. Stay calm, he murmured. We've got this. But even as he said it, Quentin felt the weight pressing against his chest. This wasn't a trial, it was a performance. And Judge Harrow had already chosen her ending. The performance. The trial began. Quentin's objections were dismissed almost before he finished speaking them. Every time Briggs stumbled, Harrow guided him like a mother tutoring her favorite child. The jury, 9 white, 3 black, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Even they couldn't ignore the imbalance. But no one spoke, except Quentin. He watched Harrow carefully. The way her lips curled with disdain when he raised a valid argument. The way she spoke over him as if he were a child who'd wandered in off the street. This wasn't bias. It was something worse. It was corruption honed over decades and hidden behind a veneer of respectability. But Quentin was ready. He had spent years preparing for this. And he wasn't here to win a case. He was here to expose a system. Turning point. Your Honor, Quentin said calmly during the second day of testimony. The prosecution just introduced evidence that was never disclosed in discovery. That's a clear violation of Brady v. Maryland. I move for an immediate mistrial. Harrow leaned back, removing her glasses and giving him an exaggerated look of boredom. Denied. Quentin let a silence stretch across the courtroom. Then he spoke again, slower this time. For the record, Your Honor, you're refusing to acknowledge a Brady violation? Her jaw clenched. I said denied. He nodded slowly. Understood. The courtroom shifted. Reporters scribbled faster. The jury exchanged glances. And for the first time, Harrow met his gaze head-on. There was something dark behind her eyes. Something uncertain. You're dangerously close to contempt, Mr. Ward. Quentin tilted his head. For asking this court to follow the law. Harrow slammed her gavel. The crack of wood against wood echoed like a rifle shot. Enough. But it wasn't enough. Not anymore. The moment of reckoning. The third day began like the first two. But Quentin knew it was ending differently. When the double doors at the rear of the courtroom swung open, every head turned. Two men in dark suits entered, their movements deliberate. Federal agents. Quentin stayed seated, smoothing the front of his jacket. What is the meaning of this? Harrow snapped. One of the agents held up his badge. Judge Evelyn Harrow, we need you to come with us. I'm in the middle of a trial. Harrow shot back. This can wait. It can't, the lead agent replied. We have a warrant for your arrest. The courtroom froze. The gallery erupted moments later. Voices of disbelief, gasps, whispers, stunned silence. And Quentin rose. He turned to the jury, then the gallery, then finally back to Harrow. Your Honor, he said quietly, it seems you have more pressing concerns than denying motions. Her face drained of color. The fall. The agents read the charges: bribery, abuse of power, obstruction of justice, civil rights violations. Harrow, for the first time in 24 years, looked small, vulnerable, powerless. And when they cuffed her, snapping cold metal around wrists that had once signed away so many futures, the courtroom was silent. Quentin let the silence breathe. Justice comes full circle. When a new judge arrived, a man named Lionel Gaines, known for fairness and integrity, Quentin moved quickly. I motion for all charges against my client to be dismissed, he said. Judge Gaines listened carefully, then nodded. I agree. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Anthony Bell's cuffs came off. His freedom returned, just as Harrow's was stripped away. The aftermath. As Quentin gathered his papers, Anthony turned to him. I thought people like her never paid for what they did. Quentin's gaze drifted to the bench where Harrow had ruled. Empty now. Sometimes they do, he said. But the fight's not over. And it wasn't. Quentin knew this was only the beginning. One judge had fallen, but there were others like her, hidden in plain sight. And he would be ready.